Did Joe Biden win this election fairly? What are the chances of Donald Trump's legal team in challenging Biden's win? I will talk about that with the Senior Political Analyst at Epoch Times, Academy Award-nominated screenwriter and multi-award winning novelist Roger L. Simon. This is Against the Tide TV, Eunika Chojecka. Roger L. Simon is also a founder and CEO of PJ Media. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you on our Polish TV.
Well, great to be here. You know, I have some Polish ancestry, so I'm pleased to be here.
Oh. It's great to hear you. First question, sir, do you believe that Joe Biden and Democrats win these elections fairly?
I have to be quite honest, I don't know. I think chances are yes, but there's a decent enough chance that it's a no, that it's very good that they are carrying out the natural, research to see, because in the end, democracy depends on an honest election, and we have to make sure we have them. The United States has not always had honest elections. I mean, back in 1960, there's some question whether even JFK won. So let's have a look.
What went wrong during this election?
Well, it's hard to say. But one thing that could have gone wrong is that people played with the computers. And that's the new way. We're all, as you know, I'm talking to you on Skype all the way from Nashville, Tennessee to Poland. And the truth is that we're all at the behest of technology we don't fully understand. And the potential for the sabotage of the technology is tremendous. Therefore, it has to be looked at. There's a lot of talk about that. And then there's, of course, the old problem of dead people voting. But that's an old one. In fact, it's probably as long as there have been elections, there have been dead people voting. That's the way it goes. We don't like that, but that's what happens.
We've heard about that in Poland even, about this dead people voting. So how do you evaluate the chances of President Donald Trump's legal team in challenging Biden's win? 50-50 or 20% chance? What do you think?
Ooh, hard to calculate. I think it's closer to 20. I mean, in all honesty, because there's a lot of states there that are at play. And he has to achieve it in several states in order to make the magic number of 270 electoral votes. I think that there were some very great geniuses back in the founding of the United States, mainly James Madison. And when, these guys figured out, and Benjamin Franklin figured out that this, in a country the size of the United States, which is after all much larger than the European countries, that this system of the states all having their own elections is a good one. It protects against what they call the tyranny of the majority there. Something that I think people in Poland can well understand from your own history. So that this is a good thing, but it also creates a lot of problems because there's 50 states to deal with.
And I want to ask you about media. What role have the media and the tech giant have been playing in this election process, in your opinion?
Well, that's a great question, because the media is at war with each other in the United States in a way that it's never really been true in my lifetime. And it's getting to be probably the most significant battle, because the battle over information is of tremendous importance. And, I was involved some years ago in founding a company called PJ Media, and now I'm a columnist for the Epoch Times. These are not mainstream media organizations, although I have a history of having written for the New York Times and the Washington Post, so I'm not, unfamiliar with how that operates. But the corporations that run mainstream media are so powerful that they dominate the mind of the public in ways that we're just beginning to understand. It's not just communism where, Pravda and Izvestia controlled the minds of Russia, and there were similar publications in Poland when it was a communist country that dominated the minds of the public. It happens in capitalist countries as well in subtler ways, and we have to be very careful about it.
But you use a term, digital fascism. Please explain what you mean by this term.
Oh boy, you people are fast. I just did that last night at about, as I was going to sleep. But the big people who really control our lives are not just the famous newspapers like the New York Times or the London Times. It's really Google, Facebook, Twitter that now dominate our lives. And they have control of what we learn and what we think. And that's really scary. That's digital fascism. That's what I call it. I think probably the biggest problem is Google, which all of us seem to rely on for how we get our information. But Google controls that information with its own algorithms. I've seen it happen to my own writing on there. That years ago it was very, very popular. Now it goes down the list in ways that are controlled by some little gnome in Northern California. And I don't know how it's done particularly, because I'm not a tech genius, but it's very, very dangerous. And I think the Polish public should keep their eye on it. I'm sure there are people there who keep their eye on it because there's a lot of smart people there, but it's the most important thing to do.
You said you have some Polish ancestors. I want to ask you about Polish diaspora in the States. What can Polish American do now in this post-election situation?
No, I don't think they're any different from any other Americans. That you have to, read the news carefully. I mean, go to several different outlets. Don't just trust one person. Don't trust me any more than you trust the New York Times, even though I might write something in opposition to the New York Times. You use your brain and go select your information carefully, but whether a Polish American or a Mexican American, it's the same issue. I mean, it's the same issue to a Pole in Warsaw. It's all the same. We've got to, learn to be selective in what we read and how to read it.
And I want to ask about a Jewish American. In one of your articles in Epoch Times, speaking about the Jews' role, you described this election as Jewish wake-up. Where can we see the change in the American Jews' vote?
Well, this is interesting. I mean, it's for almost my entire life, I would say the Jewish vote in America has been 75% for the Democratic Party in a kind of automatic manner that the black vote was a similar. The Democratic Party, which I was, for most of my life, I changed later, a member, depended on what we call identity politics. And the idea was if you were Jewish, you'd vote Democratic. Well, that's idiotic. It's idiotic that a black person would vote just because they're black Democratic. In fact, this is the opposite of what good democracy would be, because it's sort of a backdoor version of one-party rule. You might as well be in Moscow in 1956. What you want to do here is use your brain again. It's not, it's not what you say. I mean, it's really Now, I think what can you can, excuse me, I got a phone call at that point, which was a very inopportune moment. I should have turned off my iPhone as being an idiot of modern times. Anyway, but what's interesting is right now this is starting to break up. Even though Trump looks like he is losing this election, it might be losing it. At the same time, one of the things that occurred, which is very interesting, is that these voting blocs, like Jews and like blacks and like Latinos, started to swing a little bit to the Republican side, as if they were awake. And also with the Jewish vote, of course, there was the recent Middle East successes of Trump that people were responding to, and which may be unwound by Biden, which is a nervous thing to those of us who applauded the coming peace in the Middle East.
And let's talk about Israel for a while. We have a few Israeli correspondents. What are your thoughts on Benjamin Netanyahu congratulating Joe Biden on his victory?
Well, that is, I don't know whether you use this term in Polish, but I bet you do. It's a bit of realpolitik, real. I mean, Netanyahu was thinking first of Israel at that moment, and trying to protect the relationship of Israel and the United States. I mean, which is, in reality, if you look at it honestly, that's his job. I mean, the United States provides a lot for Israel in the way of military protection and other things. So, and it has been an ally since its start. So Israel would naturally want to do that. And, Biden and Netanyahu are both politicians of a certain age and have been dealing with this stuff for decades. So, there's a certain kind of subtext to everything. I think, Biden knows full well that Netanyahu and Trump were very close. So there's nobody's fooling anybody here. It's all kind of, I think, a game of political charades, but it has to be played.
And last question, but not least, from our Taiwanese correspondent, Hannah Shen. From the Hunter Biden scandal, we may assume that the CCP knows much more about Biden family deals. If so, Joe Biden may simply become China's dog. If Joe Biden becomes the president, should we anticipate a shift in the U.S. towards policy towards China in Russia? What do you think?
I think that if there was a reason not to vote for Biden, that is the reason, because it's quite scary. I think, I believe that China, communist China, not the Chinese themselves, who are wonderful people. I work at the Epoch Times, which is filled with Chinese Americans now who fled communism in China, some of them who had horrible lives. What the danger of this is tremendous, because it's quite obvious that there was a Biden family business going on in China that was pretty spooky, and we haven't heard the end of it yet. I mean, there's going to be a lot more coming out. So if there is a Biden administration, there's going to be a battle of information that's going to be quite extraordinary vis-a-vis the China-Biden relationship, and we can hope that that Biden will be so scared of this information coming out that he behaves better and doesn't accede to China in the way that he might want to.
But we hope that Donald Trump will win this election, and we pray for your country and for Donald Trump. Roger L. Simon, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank our Taiwanese correspondent Hannah Shen and our Israeli correspondent Ivan Belastenko for contribution in this interview. It was Against the Tide TV from Poland. Eunika Chojecka. See you soon.